And we're on. Greetings, everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy
Hello,
Memorial
hello.
Weekend. Hello, Rick and Lawrence.
Hola.
We gathered here again today to speak some of one of our favorite topics, which is health, which is a pretty wonderful topic to have these days based on current events. So, with Rick and Lawrence both have careers in the health and nutrition fields, they also have some pretty sound advice. And I just thought, why not fill our arsenal with some more advice on health and how to take care of yourself and protect yourself in this day and age?
This will be a healthy human experience hangout with Heidi.
Oh, that was the banner. The healthy
H.
experience.
It's called H bombs.
Instead of Triple H, we're quadruple H today.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you all today.
Well, let's chat. Mr. Ramirez, how's the sweat in Chicago? How's everybody sweating?
It got chilly this weekend. After 80-degree weather, we're down to 50s again. So much fun. So much fun. Love Chicago.
How are your clients?
Yeah, Rick, tell us a little bit about, because I'm curious, like what it is you're doing right now with your clients, and give us an idea of what's happening over there.
So, yeah, I mean, last show that we had, we talked about all the fun, dirty stuff. And at the end, the three of us were kind of saying like, hey, let's roll out some healthy tips that are really basic, really common sense, really simple. And one of the things that I start all of my clients on, or, try to, because you got bad habits, and you're trying to knock out bad habits. On the physical, I mean, I always try to hit the mental, but on the physical, if we're talking about practical things that people can do, I think hydration is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, start there. Just start drinking more water.
For sure.
I've even had people that like are on a junk food diet, and I tell everybody that I talk to, and Larry, you might not understand this. I'm sorry, Mr. Lawrence. I know.
It's all right.
I was being informal with Lawrence there. Sorry. You would understand this, because I tell people, I'm giving you this advice, but I know other trainers and other professionals will probably fight me on it. I don't try to take people off the junk food right away, because I'm battling a habit that's really hard to tackle. So I tell people, start with water. Just start to get more hydrated. Do that, and we'll go from there. And I think that's the simplest entry point for people to start looking at, how do I get healthy? Hydrate all day long. And, and even if I break it down a little bit more, most of us in this little room probably know better, but I even tell people, I'm like, if you have to drink tap water to get your freaking hydration, just to get the habit going, start there, even though I'm not a fan of tap water.
Sure.
And then we can work our way up to like bottled water and filtered water, and then go from there. My personal choice is distilled filtered water. But wherever people can start, I just tell them, just get that hydration going. So that's number one for me.
Yeah, people really don't usually drink a lot of water, do they? They think they are, but
yeah.
Right. Once you tell people, I found once you tell people to start drinking more, they realize how little they're drinking. Yeah. And so I would go right along with that. And I'm not sure, Rick, do you give them a target? Because I do, but I'm not sure. Do you give them how much? I
try not to overwhelm people with that number. I know what the numbers are. You can there's calculations out there that you can do.
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm easy peasy. The way I train people is I tell them, it's like a train. Try pushing a train down the tracks. It's going to start really, really slow. But once that sucker gets momentum, man, that's when we start cranking. So once I have somebody that is on the same page with me, then yeah, we start, throwing numbers down and macros and all that kind of stuff. But in the beginning, I'm just like, baby steps, baby
Mhm.
steps, baby
Yeah.
steps, baby steps.
What would be the next step after that? Like what
So
typically, like, because obviously also you're doing the exercise along the way
yeah,
as well. But
yeah. So typically, the next step for me is to find their eating pattern, because again, with the water thing, most people don't know. I usually say how they're eating, not necessarily what they're eating. And so for me, the eating pattern is, are you doing like breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Are you doing breakfast, snack, 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 lunch, snack, 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 dinner, snack,
Right.
snack, 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 peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the end of the night before you go to sleep? If that's your pattern, we got to tweak that. And so the next step after trying to just let them know about the hydration thing is, how are you eating? What's the pattern? So once we find the pattern, it's kind of easier to change it. And it's more on the psychological level, it's having self-awareness. And most of us are checked out as far as like nutrition and being healthy. Everybody's like, oh, I got to go to the gym and I'll lose 30 pounds in a day.
Right.
No, you gotta learn what your habits are. You got to learn what you naturally go to just because you're not aware of it. So we got to open your eyes and make you aware. And so that's the next step for me is, how are you eating? I don't care what you're eating. I don't care if it's Twinkies all day long, but are you aware that you're eating Twinkies all day long? That's the question.
Yep. Love it.
And like I said, once I find out with them together what their pattern is, I don't change it right away. We just start little tweaks, right? So I had a friend, she's not even a client really, but she was one of these people that was breakfast, kind of, snack, 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 lunch, snack, snack, snack. And when I showed her that, and I'll give you an idea of how we figured that out together. But once I showed her, I'm like, here's your pattern. You eat and you eat and you eat and you eat. Because she was told that she needed to eat a lot more calories. So this is how she was getting those calories in. And I told her, I'm like, we want your body to have some room to digest the food, get the insulin out of the bloodstream so you can kind of go into fat burning mode. I just try to make it super simple for people. And so once she did that, she told me she didn't want to get on the scale, but evidently somewhere along the line she got on the scale, because later I got a text from her and she said, Rick, I lost 12 pounds just from that little tweak.
Yeah.
Just recognizing the pattern, I'm sure, did a lot.
Yeah, making her aware, and then changing the pattern of she didn't even, I didn't tell her change the food. We just took all the snacks out and said either put them in lunch or put them in breakfast or whatever, or take them out, eliminate them entirely. But the gaps between the feeding is what helped her kind of start to eliminate some of the weight.
Love it.
Simple stuff.
Yeah, I love that approach. I do something almost exactly the same. I survey clients ahead of time with a form that they, sort of their basic and what's your goal and all the sort of general stuff that you'd expect on it. But the way that I look at it is literally who, what, when, where, and why. That's kind of my approach. And so I look at who is, who are you eating with? So who's around you?
That's a good one.
Because who's in the house with you, and what, right? So we dig into that. What are you eating? What is that food? Where are you eating? Are you in the car with a sandwich? Are you on the sofa with a bag of the where? So this is all the same thing of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
How even do you eat fast?
Yes.
Are you a fast eater? Do you like spoon food or fork food? Are you right? Why is a big one, because it's the never ending. That's, why goes really deep. And when, sort of that would go into the eating pattern.
Yeah.
And when, to your point about the eating pattern. And that's usually where I start, but I want to know all of it at the beginning so I know the hot spots.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, and then a consultation, of course, in my case, determine what are the important things to do. And there's usually only 2 or 3 items that client's going to have to work on. And it's almost always drinking more water. And it's almost always being aware of, like, when do you start eating? When do you stop? What happens in that window? Yep. Because if they just get that down, like I even say the same thing. If you don't even change what you're eating. Yep. So I totally am on board with that approach. And I think that baby steps are everything. Habit change, what you do, what I do, what we're all whenever you're trying to help people, you're meeting them where they're at with their own habits. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've, read any books on habits or can recommend any, but I would just 2 that come to mind that anybody out there, I think, would benefit from. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and Atomic Habits from James Clear are 2 of the finest books on habits I've ever read. So I've started to really incorporate, well, I have been for a while with the Duhigg stuff, but recently with James Clear's. You have to be willing to rip off from good ideas, and that's the whole point of all this is sharing knowledge. And Rick, I have a question for you. So given that your own journey, right? I mean, obviously I think because when you get to a point where you want to train others, you have a athletic background, right? You were an athlete, and give us an idea of that, because I think your story probably would help reveal why you're doing what you're doing, right?
So that's a really good question, because the interesting thing is, life does this up and down, up and down, up and down, and you've got trainers out there. And so I want to also say, because there's a difference between what Lawrence and I do. Lawrence is kind of in a clinical setting, and I'm more like ragtag. Like I'm kind of like the Rebel Alliance. I'm out
You're
there
lifting tires.
Where are we at? The
and Larry's reading the blood.
We need them all. We need it all.
Like Lawrence is like Senator Organa, and I'm Han Solo.
I'm in the war room, and then you're like out there on the field, like
basically, right?
Taking people out.
So when it comes to training, though, personal training, I tell people all the time, a majority of the trainers can tell you how to do push-ups, because that's what they know. That's the athletic background. That's easy. Almost any monkey can do that. Then there's a subset of trainers that take the time to understand nutrition and what do these nutrients do inside your body when you're working out, when you're sitting around, that kind of thing. And then there's a smaller subset of trainers that understand the psychological aspects of what's going on. And so to answer your question, Lawrence, it's like, what does my life history or whatever have to do with helping the people that I'm training? Is I let them know this is life. Mm-hmm. I've been in shape, I've been out of shape, I've been in shape, I've been out of shape, I've been in shape, and right now I'm out of shape. And I'm working my way back to that in shape again.
Yeah.
And so I think that life experience for me helps me with my clients, in the sense that I can tell them, like, the biggest thing that I share with people is, like, no guilt. We're all human. We make mistakes. Sometimes we consciously make mistakes. Like, I'm going to go eat that Twinkie and I don't give a fuck. And that's okay. But just understand that you're on a journey. So if you're one of these people, and I tell my clients this all the time, I'm like, if you're one of these people that are like, I got to get ready for the wedding in 2 weeks, I got to fit in that dress, I got to be a size 2 in 2 weeks, I'm like, ain't happening. We could probably squeeze you in there, but you're going to get chubby again after the wedding's done, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I try to promote as best I can long term. And even if the goal is to lose weight, let's say like 20, you know, everybody's like, I want to lose 20 pounds. Cool. If that's the goal, then what is the outcome after you lose the 20 pounds? What are you going to do after that weight is finally off? You got to think about that, because most
That's
people
everything.
most people have the end goal and then they don't know what's after the end goal.
Correct.
So I try to promote that as much as I can. It's just, and again, it comes back to awareness. Just understand, you know, I had a friend once who asked me, she goes, Rick, she needed to lose a lot of weight. So she's like, I need to lose about 100 pounds. And I'm like, okay. And she asked me point blank, she goes, how long do you think it'll take me to lose it? And I said, honestly? And she goes, yeah. And I said, about a year. And she was like, and I'm like,
right.
I'm like, how long did it take you to put that weight on? Number one. Two, you and I are friends, so I know your habits by now. Which means you start and you stop, you start and you stop. So that weight ain't coming off fast.
And it shouldn't, because typically weight that comes off fast comes back fast.
Exactly. But that's what I wanted to let her know. I was being straight with her. Like, that weight ain't coming off quick because your habits slow you down. You're not consistent. And most of us aren't really. We kind of like stop and go. And I try to let people know that's okay. That's why I say, you know, no guilt.
Setting the expectations early is important. Because I will say to people, if you want a nutritionist that gets you to drop 20 pounds in 30 days, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be your guy. Can you do some of these things? You can, but then on day 31, you're not left with any skills to be able to maintain. And you look at a show like The Biggest Loser, what a disaster that was when they followed up all those people. Everybody gained weight back and then some. Statistically, I mean, you get different stats, but it's pretty dismal in terms of long-term success. I mean, it's 3 to 5% or so. I use the 3% is the number that I like to cite, and 3% of people are able to maintain weight loss for longer than 2 years. And so I try to communicate what I'm going to show you is what those 3% are doing. Because if I can coach you on what the 3% are doing, we don't have to worry about the 97%. We can just only focus on what because success leaves clues. And, you know, it is, I mean, there are times where it's like, look, I got a wedding in 3 months and it's my wedding.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you're going to be eating, you know, chicken breast and asparagus for
the next 6 months, right?
But setting the expectations, and you know, I don't have it with me. It's a great prop, but you probably have all seen it, or anybody can Google it. It's what 5 pounds of body fat looks like. And it's a gigantic lump. And so when people realize I've only lost 5 pounds, I pull out that, I call it a Fifi. It's the Fifi award. Every 5 pounds, you get another little Fifi. But when you realize that the type of deficit that you have to be in to lose that much weight, you know, to lose 1 pound, you've got to have a 500 calorie deficit every day, going every day to lose 1 pound in a week. So expectations are big. I think we're really on the same page. Habits, slowly changing habits. Water. Let's talk about some other things. Like,
so this is the other thing that
there's some tips.
Yeah, this is the other thing I want to point out, because when you're looking for a trainer or a nutritionist or somebody that is going to be helping you out, you really want to get past the hype, that kind of thing. You want to find somebody that's genuinely there to help you out. I've seen a lot of trainers. I've managed a lot of trainers because I used to be a fitness manager. Over the years, I've probably managed well over 200 trainers, coaches, instructors, like that kind of thing. And a lot of them get into the industry to help people out. They genuinely, that's what they're there for. But then you got a few apples that are in there for selfish reasons. They want their body to look nice, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when these people try to move forward to help you out, they're usually still, so here's the difference. They're still focused on themselves, which means they're giving you a program that benefits them and doesn't benefit you.
Right.
And that's important. You want to find somebody that, like what Lawrence is doing with the clients in the beginning, asking a lot of questions. Who, what, when, hi, wow, whatever, all of it. Like, you want somebody that's like asking you those questions. I had a friend call me and she's like, Rick, what kind of meal replacement do I need? And I'm like, how much time do you got on the phone? Because that's not an easy answer, a question to answer. And I asked her all these questions, and I find out that she's type 2 diabetic. She's gone through chemo and radiation therapy and depression. And like, you don't need a meal replacement shake, girl. You need something like, we need to figure this shit out together. And so if you have a trainer that tells you, here's your program, and hasn't like really sat you down and asked you any questions, like
cookie cutter,
run as fast as you can from that person.
That's a cookie cutter approach, which and it blows me away that I have clients come to me that have worked with nutritionists before, and they tell me what these people charge them and what they got for what they were charged. I'm thinking, man, I need to raise my fee.
Well, the best is like,
it's like,
the best
wow.
is this girl that I was just mentioning. She talked to a dietitian or somebody at the like doctor or somebody, and they basically gave her a syllabus and told her, you need to get on a 1,200 calorie diet. And they basically gave her this little sheet. And they're like, you know, here's your notes and sayonara, see you later. And I think that's BS. I'm like, fuck, stop paying those people all that money. Give me some of that money, and I'll not only will I help you lose the weight, but I'll teach you what these knuckleheads don't even show you what you need to know. And I think that should be like a mini crime kind of thing, like a misdemeanor on the doctor level or the nutrition level, where you hand the patient or the client a syllabus and you're like, here's what you know, read that and you're fine. Like, fuck that. That's not cool.
I had a patient tell me one time, she was talking about, she brought this up to me and it stuck with me. She said, you know, when people lose, so when people lose something, they try to find it. So she said she had someone tell her, don't worry about losing weight, just find health. And I stole that. I said, you know, that's a great reframe. So what matters in the beginning is, you know, that you find health. You know, when I was in Little League, I remember it was Little League and I wanted to pitch. And my dad said, just work on your control and the speed will come, you know. Work on finding new healthy behaviors, new healthy habits, and weight sort of normalizes over time just from that. What would you say, Rick? So water, kind of we sort of establish knowing, you know, where you're at and get your expectations right, self-awareness. What are some other things that come to mind that come up often with clients?
Well, I said I would mention how I helped my client figure out her pattern. It just like dropped in my mind right now.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did with her, and I'm starting to do with clients now, just because it's so simple, and I try to like focus on the simple, is I told her, whenever you eat, take a picture and send me that text.
Yep.
So accountability, kind of.
Well, it's a huge account, because for some reason it takes people struggle with writing shit down. So I just told them, I'm like, whatever you eat, take a picture and send that to me. And so this is, I don't know if you can see the phone. It's right there. Look at all the food they send.
Wow.
Yeah. I do the same thing.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm like, I don't need you to write it down. Just before it goes in your mouth, take a picture of it. And that's like mini self-awareness. So then they start to see, oh shit, because they can see that's basically a file right there in that text log. Right. And you could see, okay, maybe I shouldn't be eating this crap. And on their own, they start to figure it out.
Where I differ a bit from you, I do the photos every once in a while, and I do once in a while, not with everybody. I kind of feel it out, but I do a very old school thing where I use note cards. And so I call it like food mood. And so it'll be 14 note cards. It's 2 weeks. And they just write down what they ate and when they ate on the front part of the note card. On the back part of the note card, they write down how they felt. Yeah. But what I ask them to do, I don't overthink that part. I just want you to write down whatever comes to you. That's important. Mm-hmm. Why I found that's helpful is I'll get those cards back and I literally lay them out, and we can start pulling, let's call them good cards, bad cards. But what's on the back side of the card, what they're writing down, I've found to be super valuable in figuring out what makes them tick. Because what a person decides to write down is what's important to them. It's almost like their love language. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if they're writing down a lot of emotional things, I know that's kind of where I could meet them. Mm-hmm. If they're, writing down a lot of schedule conflicts, like wanted to eat better but was in a rush, or you get clues. Sure. And this idea, what Rick was talking about, run away from a trainer that's going to give you a cookie cutter approach, this is what it's called narrative medicine, where a narrative begins to form between you and the patient or you and the client. And Rick's doing the same thing, because in the same way, one of Rick's clients can scroll back through their phone. You can use that not only as what happened, but what can happen moving forward. Mm-hmm. Say when you're stressed and you need help, you've got on your phone a go-to that you can look at. Mm-hmm. So, or in the case of using the note cards, we can say, okay, here's like 3 or 4, or we may need to make a few new ones that cobble together like hybrids, give them back and say, keep these in your purse, keep them on you. Now you know a blueprint for what you could do moving forward. You know what a good day looks like. And in the back, if it's a good day that you felt good on, now a story emerges of how to move forward.
I have to step in a little personal tale a little bit about it all, because I'm not surprised that I wound up in craft service like I did. And I was known for high vibe snackages and taking care of others and keeping energy. It was all about energy. But my journey was frightening, especially for you guys. I was somebody that needed someone like you. I tortured myself starting in high school. I dealt with anorexia, bulimic, drugs, like everything. I either had so many extra layers on me to protect myself from others, or I whittled down to nothing. And I wrote down every morsel, what calorie went in, what I burned out. I was doing it all myself, but the mind is so powerful. The mind is so powerful. And I struggled. I was so religious about what I did, yet my weight struggled. And it's when the stress went away, or when I relaxed about it all and I trusted my body, like much later on in life, really when I get pregnant and stuff, I let my body do what it needs to do. And your body settles into it. So it's like, I just eat for energy now. And then as far as with the kids, people used to just mock and even talk, saying, oh, you must have just shit everywhere and craft service this. And I go, if you ask my kids, they'll tell you our menu is like hot dogs, hamburgers, pizzas, this. I go, but they're not telling you they're grass-fed, right. This, and it's fake cheese. Like, they don't know that part. Right. But I love that their Waldorf school taught them and taught me to teach them is their plate. It's like a grain, a protein, and a vegetable, a grain, a protein, and a fruit. Like, we just check off, do we have these items? And then our thing is how many colors today did we eat? So there's all these little basic bits you can do. But the fact that I ended up in the food industry and I tortured myself with more than a decade of it. When you all met me in that film, I was knee deep in it. And I'm just hearing you saying all this. And I was almost this moment of, I came across all my old journals and I'll flip to a page and it's just like, I would write, this sucked, this happened. And I was brutal to myself. Like, I was rarely restrictive. And then there'd be a nice day and it'd be like, oh, this was fun. And it was a birthday. I only had a little cake, but the dialogue to myself was like, whoa, that was half the battle. It was pretty crazy.
I could give 2 tips right off the bat of what you said, Heidi, when it comes to the restriction and all that, because I'm working with kids too, so I've got to be mindful of planting seeds that are going to be healthy, and they're not going to have issues with food. But in dealing with adults that have like a history like that, I mean, this is also where you're going to have to take it one client at a time and customize the approach. But found 2 things that are extremely helpful pretty much across the board. Is a diet should be defined by what you do eat and not what you don't. And so what most people begin, you ask somebody, what are you doing with you clean up your diet. Yeah, I'm gluten-free, soy-free. I don't eat this. I avoid alcohol. I don't eat sugar. It's like they just literally start to tell you everything they don't do. And that psychology is going to blow up in your face, because that's like, don't think of an elephant. So once we start moving toward the foods that are giving you energy, that are nourishing you, that your body loves, you can define your diet based on what you are eating. And then it becomes additive, because when healthy food is there, healthy, nourishing food that makes you feel good. How does the food make you feel? This is what I eat. So that's sort of one tip. And then the second, just the language change can be helpful, because when there are times, so it becomes hard, because I deal with blood work. There are times that a person like literally does have to avoid certain foods, right? So it's nice to say moderation and eat what you want, but when the blood work, they might like the food, but their body doesn't. Or they found that we've got some autoimmune issue or a severe intolerance or even an allergy. Now they've got to make an actual change, but they need to be able to embrace it psychologically. So for those people, and this is like a huge one, if you find yourself saying, I can't eat that, simply change that phrase to, I don't eat that. Because I can't is a restriction. It's I can't is, well, Lawrence told me I can't. I can't is I'm going to feel bad if I do it. I don't is a place of power. It's empowering, because it's, I don't. It's a boundary. I don't associate with those people. So I don't eat that can be helpful, because there are going to be times. This is where there's rules until there's not. I mean, all things in moderation, including moderation. But there are times that people just they have to avoid certain things. And so those are 2 things that I found helpful: is focus on what you can eat, and use that language, verbally. And then that becomes kind of, I don't do that. There's none of that internal rebellion that pops up with people.
Yeah. And the other thing too is I think there's a lot of us that are emotional eaters.
Everyone, Rick, 100% of people are. That's what I always tell people. We're all emotional eaters. It's just what we do with our emotions.
Yeah. Exactly. And my childhood, the rewards were sweets. The rewards are treats. So I associate everything was an emotional attachment. It was. Go ahead.
It goes back to, like I was telling you, the different levels of trainers that I always tell people. I'm like, the ones on the bottom are all physical, push-ups here, that. The second tier can help you with the nutrition stuff, and they're really good about that. The third tier will help you on the psychological level. And when I tell people about that, it's like sometimes, and I've even done this with clients on the training side, where I'm like, all I need you to do is go meditate, like go relax. Fuck the gym, fuck trying to like change your diet right now. You're so stressed out that adding all this extra stress of what am I going to eat, how many push-ups do I have to do, or whatever, that's just going to throw you over the edge. So one of the things sometimes that I see, Lawrence, is people are so stressed, and I'm like, I don't need to stress you out anymore. So I just want you to relax.
Yeah.
As a trainer, that's my assignment for you. Go relax. And I'll tell people, whatever relaxation means to you. Is it meditating? Is it doing a yoga class? Is it going out and doing a dance class, something that you enjoy? Like I tell the moms that I train, Go get your damn mani-pedi because it makes you feel good and pretty. So like Heidi, you were talking about the energy thing.
Everything.
I always vibe on the energy. If I can get you feeling good and we start knocking down the stress a little bit, then we can start like in baby step in the next things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do people get into a state, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite phrases is if you have time to meditate, do 10 minutes. If you don't have time to meditate, do 20.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And
the other little tip on meditation, Lawrence, because there's a lot of people that say, well, I don't know how to meditate. And I'm like, have you ever caught yourself daydreaming? Well, yeah, you're meditating. Because meditation, meditation just means trying to get into a different state of mind. And that, if we can go into the beta, alpha, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a big deal, though. The beta, theta, where your brain is.
State is everything.
Sometimes I try not to go into that realm because it overwhelms people. So I'm just like, just relax. Like I try to bring it back into like layman's terms. Just relax.
Yeah.
If they want to know the information, then I'm happy to give it to them because at the end of the day, I want to teach them. And I was just going to say, and I tell a lot of my clients, and it's bad business, but I tell everybody, I'm like, I want to train you to the point where you don't need me anymore.
Yep.
That's smart. That's nice.
I want you to be so good at what we're doing together that, and I always say, like, for whatever reason, if I'm out of the picture, if I die, I move across the state, whatever, I'm not around, you're self-sufficient enough that you can do this on your own. You don't need me or another trainer anymore, unless you want to like move up to the next level kind of shit. But that's my ultimate goal for people.
I'm sure you guys run into clients too that, I mean, they're all from all walks of life. And they also have all these different crazy influence. I think my biggest, trippiest thing this year is I went from 0 to 60 or 60 to 0. My lifestyle before, I consumed all day long. I had to have my peanut butter and jelly at night and sometimes midnight and in the morning at 4 a.m. if I had 6 a.m. call. But I was burning thousands every day. I had 2 cases of water here getting in and out of my truck. Like I had Body by Crafty and it was ripped, but I ate like a beast too. I was like, I had to feed my, and it was high vibe usually, but I ate. And then as soon as I stopped and, not just lockdown, but I went back to full mommy mode, I had to retrain myself. I'm like, I'm not burning. Yeah. It was like, and now I'm almost like, I feel like an old fart, with the seniors discount. Cause I'm like, did I eat enough today? But I really don't do shit. So I'm not burning much. I'm not as hungry, but it took so long for my body I even went through muscle atrophy for a while. I was like, I needed that go-go. That was my workout, but I'm just relaxing now into it and trying a whole new approach to my body. And it's just bouncing it back into exactly the shape it needs to be to support my lifestyle now.
Yeah. So the cool thing, like as a trainer, what I recognize is number one, you are aware of the pattern change. And 2, like you even talking about, like, I'm trying to settle into it. That's awesome too, because it means I don't have any guilt or shame about the change.
I was ruled by it before. Yeah.
So you're kind of at what's nice is mentally, psychologically, you're at neutral. So if you want to build up from there, you can. Most people are at a deficit psychologically. They beat themselves up. Yeah. They're mad that they gained the weight and all that kind of. So I'm sure you've experienced this, Lawrence. You got to build them up to baseline, just to get them to go positive again.
And I have kids watching now. My daughter's hit puberty. Like she's gaining weight in certain spots. These habits are important, especially because I feel like decade plus, almost 2, that I tortured myself. It was my foundation. It was incredibly unstable. And it wasn't, I'm like, I'm able to be a way shower for my kid right now and not have her go through what I went through. So it's paramount now. I see something foo-foo from Aaron. Hi, Aaron. I just wanted to show his thing because I can't read it that far. When you relax, you get there faster. Let your mouth hang open and relax your tongue and mouth. Let it hang. Sometimes we clench our mouth without realizing it. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Thanks, Aaron. And hi, Aaron. And hi, Sandy. Just saying hi to Sandy. We have our little fans and we have a Twitch fan. If you could time travel, would you go in the past or the future? I like that. A little off topic. That'll be another topic, but who says I don't already? But
state is crucial. Tip wise, something I talk to 100% of my clients about is breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And in terms of state, there's no better way. It's as cheap, as simple as you can get, but most people don't realize it. And it was very relevant this past year with COVID.
Yes.
Nose, breathing through the nose. Most people are mouth breathers.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're breathing through your mouth, you're really only hitting the top of your lungs. Most people don't realize it. And the top of your lungs is tied into your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight stress response. So we talk about stress. If you can breathe in through your nose, you can reach the bottom of your lung. And that's tied into your parasympathetic nervous system. That's going to calm you down. It's going to help. We always say less stress, rest, digest. It's going to help everything. And so before eating, even doing cycles of what's called box breathing, it's a Navy SEAL breathing technique. But, if you want to digest your food even properly, you need to be in a good state. So state is everything. If you can coach somebody of how to be aware, and there's no better way of, being aware than breathing, because we breathe, we don't realize it. But if you get a person to start thinking about their breath, now they're in their body. And once now they're in their body and it will work. See, if you do that, we could all do it right now. Breathe in through your nose and, breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out slow for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. You do those cycles, you do that 4 or 5 times in a row, you will be in a different place.
Yes.
So when a person realizes they can actually get themselves into a state within a couple minutes, it's pretty powerful. I think it's pretty powerful.
I'm just interjecting a little bit because we about 20 minutes or whatever. I didn't know if we could start kind of diving into some kids stuff
I was going to throw in, since Lawrence brought up the breathing, the physical stuff. So I'll just give you my little tips on the physical stuff.
Oh yeah, yes, please.
Breathing is a very important tip, but when people are exercising, they think they got to spend hours upon hours in the gym to get whatever.
Right.
And one of the things that I fight on, just it's the hype, basically, the marketing with a lot of the people that I see is like, you don't need to spend that much time in the gym.
No.
If you maximize your time in the gym, you can, and there's even some studies out there that I've read that, if you're, depending on the intensity level of your workouts, you only need to spend 20 minutes on that intensity level, and you're going to get the same results that somebody's like spending 2 hours in the gym, but you're wasting a lot less time than they are.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the physical, I always tell people where we start is, what's your fitness level? You know your body better than I do. So if there's pains, we don't want to like go to the pain. I try to avoid the pain as much as I possibly can. And it's where's their cardio conditioning? So not a lot of people know this, but if you can train with a heart rate monitor, like your heads and tails above everybody else, because now you have a little feedback mechanism that's telling you what your heart's doing. And if you can see that and understand that and have somebody that will teach you what those numbers mean, then you can train to those levels. And that's like, I think that's light years from what most people are doing in the gym.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. So it's my biggest thing is I tell people I wanna get the muscle that's inside of you strong, your heart. I don't care what your biceps look like. This little muscle don't mean shit. It's the one that's in here that matters.
And because the other things won't do what you want them to do if your mind and heart is not in the right place, I think.
Exactly. So I try to focus on the cardio conditioning. And like I said, it's a little bit more elaborate than the little 20, 15 minutes that we have in here. But that's the focus. Even if you're doing strength training, when the heart elevates because of the amount of weight that you're doing, you're kind of doing cardio. I mean, if you think about it. So the cardio conditioning, I think, is the most important thing to focus on. Everything else will take care of itself. Like, you'll start losing the body fat, the muscles will start growing, getting stronger, that kind of thing. So that's where I try to put the focus with people, on the physical side.
Physical side. Cool. Well, if hugs were a workout, I'd be fucking ripped again. I got that part down. I have taught the kids, though, did you break a sweat? or we've incorporated, 100 jumps in the trampoline, which always winds up into 20-minute game of something. They never want to get on, and then they get on, and then they can't get them off. So it's
what you just said there. That is huge, because what you just said is huge, because there's a technique that's basically where you set the bar really low. So because motivation is a joke, it doesn't exist. In a sense that something that's reliable, it's not a really reliable tool. So there's this idea that when you could basically move your way to a feeling far more likely than you can feel your way to an action. So a trick that I've used and I share with people, like, if I don't want to work out, I just literally say out loud, I don't want to work out right now. But if I stand up and I do 3 squats, I'm going to feel closer to wanting to. Like, I'm literally just making it boring like that. And it's the motion of starting. They even did a study about that, where they had one group where they told them that they had to do 40 push-ups. And then the other group, they said you have to do at least 5. And then they told both groups, you can stop whenever you want, and there's going to be a reward for whatever group does the most push-ups. The group that was told to do 5 ended up beating the other group because the level of compliance to get 40 done started diminishing over time. The people that were told to just stay in the game, they had to just do 5. They started and kept going. And so it says a lot about that is a huge trick, because things like willpower and motivations, there are crap. You can't rely on either. Willpower diminishes through the day. Motivation might be there, it might not be. Discipline means giving yourself these little tricks you can play that say, I'm working with what I know myself right now. I know I don't want to do that, but can I do 3 push-ups? I can. And you do 3, next thing you know, you're 20. So it's exactly what's happening with the kids. It's once they start. Yeah. It's never minute 7 of the workout that's hard. It's second 1. That's the hardest part of the workout, is the first second.
I love that you use the 3 push-up analogy, Lawrence, because when I'm teaching a class or when I'm training somebody one-on-one, I time everything. So I don't count reps. It's 30 seconds, it's 45 seconds, it's a minute.
Conditioning, yeah.
Yeah, so I told people, if you can do 3 reps in 30 seconds, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Yep.
Because, 1 rep every 10 seconds, you're kind of like working at a pace. If you can do more than 3 reps, that's even better. But 3 is my bare minimum.
Yeah. It's set the bar low.
Yep. And the thing is most clients are like, I can do more than 3. It's that internal engine inside, and the state too, saying, fuck this guy, I'm gonna get more than 3. And so I set the bar low because I know they can at least achieve 3, and they're probably gonna get more.
Yep.
So that's awesome. You know what I did want to ask you, Lawrence, because this is something that I wanted to hear your response on. We're talking about the healthy side of things. What 1 or 2 or 3 food groups or food, whatever, veggies, meat, whatever, would you recommend for people to be like, how we were talking about what's the one thing, like water? Like I always start people on water. What
Yeah.
would you tell people to like start eating this, and you'll kind of like turn things around?
I have an answer for that. It's not a specific food, but it's a specific category, and the answer is protein. And why is it protein? I'll explain it. So this is, if you want this is if anybody's stayed this long, congratulations.
There's 6 people.
You're about to get the money right here.
Right.
So when you hear about people arguing about diets, there's usually 2 camps. There's the cut the fat, get your carbs, cut the fat camp, and there's the higher fat, low carb camp. Protein's usually not talked about in the discussion as much. Most people think of protein as weightlifting and this and that. What they found through the years, through studies over the past 4 decades, is protein consumption has pretty much remained flat around the world. That doesn't mean meat consumption. Meat consumption kind of wavers. It's actually gone down. Protein. The 2 other categories, carbs and fat, have gone up. So when people argue about, no, we're just eating more carbs than ever before. Yep. And then other people go, no, we're eating more fat than ever before. Yep. Mm-hmm. Those 2 categories, let's just say junk food, right? Let's say a donut. A donut is pretty much carbs, fat, sugar, fat, and very little protein. There is what's called the protein leverage hypothesis. And what that means is the fancy term, but the protein leverage hypothesis, for you nerds that want to look this up, because this is the science I'm talking about. But what it says is that people will eat through a certain amount of food to arrive at a baseline of amino acids. They tend to want to do that. So, and if you think of food that's hyper palatable, I always say it doesn't have a brake pedal. You're just eating it like it's usually fiber and protein deficient, right? So fiber would be kind of flagging alongside here when you think about like really important stuff to think about. So we prioritize protein. So the simple thing I'll say is P is prioritize protein, C is control carbs, and control carbs can be how much or what type, and fill the rest with fat. That's kind of how I break it down. But protein, if people focus on targeting protein as a priority, their appetite tends to figure itself out, because protein is the most satisfying, it's most satiating, good for blood sugar, and it fills that amino acid pool. I'll give you a fast example because it's a classic example. I have a client who is a vegetarian. She came to me and we looked, I got an idea of sort of what she was eating, and I was ballparking. She was probably taking in about 2,200 calories and about 50 grams of protein, which is about 200 calories. So she was under 10% of her diet was protein. But she didn't want to not be a vegetarian anymore. So I said, that's fine. So we had to find foods that had protein, and we got her from 2,200 calories, 50 grams of protein, to 1,800 calories, a slight deficit, 100 to 105 grams of protein. She found that she almost couldn't even hit her calorie targets when she was prioritizing it correctly. So now, how do you quickly, for anybody out there, find a protein target? It differs for people, but generally, what a number I like to use. I mean, some athletes like to go 1 gram per pound. That's fine, but usually 0.6 per pound. An easy way to figure that out is if you take the first 2 numbers of your weight. So if you're 150 pounds, you're going to double that. 15 doubles, that's 30. That's 30 grams of protein each meal. That's 30, 30. That's 90. That's a great way to find a target. Doesn't mean you have to eat 3 meals. You can do 4 or however you want to, whatever your eating style is. That single tip. And when I work with a client on figuring that out, I can tell you appetite, cravings, different things just start to fall away.
Satiated.
It's just this need, because protein is the substrate. It's what you're made out of. So protein and fat are the only two essential nutrients in the human body. Like carbohydrates are not essential. Glucose is essential. For all you suckers that thought that, okay, glucose is essential, but you can make glucose out of anything in your body, and you only need a small amount. And that's not saying don't eat carbohydrates. The point is, life is a sperm and an egg. It's fat and protein. That's what that's you. And a very, very, very small amount of sugar, glucose, that your body can make out of anything. So prioritize protein. That's my tip.
Cool. Perfect. It's one quick snapback is
where we at? Where we almost
55
an hour, or
Well, pretty close. And I knew we had some important things in closing, and I knew there's something incredibly important we wanted to address as well. This is getting a little
we'll shift gears slightly. Let's do a segue. So, like Rick was talking about earlier about the heart.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the heart of. Let's talk about the heart of your child.
Don't go away right now. You need these next 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, obviously, where we last left off when we did the last episode, we were talking. We covered a lot of ground over the last year. The journey with treatments, therapies, and now leading into vaccines and the current vaccination campaign going on. And now, I think the day that we did that show was the first day that the shots were going into the arms of teenagers. Yeah. And what I would tell everybody to pay attention to, and I'm certainly right now paying close attention to this, and hopefully by the next time we talk, I'll have really good data on this and a lot more to share. But to just bring up this issue with the myocarditis, which myocarditis is essentially a general term for inflammation of the heart, that there seems to be a safety signal with some younger people getting the vaccinations. Now, Israel's doing a pretty close look at it right now with some studies over there, so I'm paying attention to that. It seems to be happening in younger males more often, but it can sometimes resolve very quickly. But obviously, if it doesn't resolve, it can turn into big problems, as you could imagine. Chest pain, shortness of breath are some of the symptoms. And so this is something I think everybody should know about. I think next talk, I'll have a lot more to say about it. But I will just say this, that conformed, how funny, that's a Freudian slip, conformed incensed. Conformed incensed. Informed consent is really important, and it fascinates me that sort of the side of this that claims to be the most pro-science seems to know less than the quote-unquote anti-science crowd, which I found to be a lot more curious about what's going on. Looking at the source material, the briefing documents from these companies, the actual clinical trial data, what were they actually studying? What were the safety studies showing? So I think we'll talk a lot more about that, but I would say that is a big safety signal right now that we're looking at, is this issue, among other issues, but I think this is going to be the big one. I think that we're going to hear a whole lot more about myocarditis and how it relates to getting these shots. And the other thing real quickly is I find it baffling how natural immunity has been downplayed in all of this. There seems to be no talk of, when we talk about these numbers of herd immunity, herd immunity was an idea that was discovered before vaccinations ever came along. It was, something that happened through the community, and if you think of something like measles, imagine having measles and recovering from measles, and someone tells you, let's get you set up with a measles shot. No, I'm immune.
It's even in Steiner philosophy. Did you know that in the education? Like there are childhood disease and points you have to hit so your body can turn into the strong.
All this, right? And just in general, what everybody should be wondering is, look at the public health messaging all along encouraging this. And now there's studies. A study just came out that people that had COVID and recovered, upon getting their second shot, are showing reduced immunity. That's an actual study that exists. I put it up. I've been putting it up a couple times here and there, but but when did these studies happen? A month ago? These are the things that should have been done. This is why things take 5 and 10 years, because these are the kind of things they need to look at. And I'll just touch on one incident real quickly here. It was a young man in Utah who is 18 years old, basketball player. I'm going to link everybody in the comments below later when I have all this together.
Thank you.
But he, long story short, he had pains in his neck and his head. They found blood clots. He ended up in ICU. Okay. ABC did a story about him, and they sort of, they covered the mom. She was crying. She was in disbelief, but she was still not pinning it on the vaccination. ABC kind of finished it up as expected, like, this doesn't seem to be related. It could be blah, blah, blah. This young man went to get his shot the same day as his father. His father's 42 years old with 0 health problems. His father is now in ICU with blood clots too numerous to count in his lungs. Now, I'm not sure about the husband, but the son, they found out later, they checked him for antibodies. Now, if you check, they check for certain antibodies. They're called N antibodies. They have to do with the nucleocapsid. That's the stuff in the virus. Mm-hmm. He had those, meaning he had COVID before. You don't get those antibodies from the shot. You just get the S protein, spike protein antibodies. Mm-hmm. So I will plead with everybody, at the very, very least, at the bare minimum, screen if you or God forbid, your child has had COVID. Now we've got all these young people that have been walking around asymptomatic because the mom said, I didn't even know he had it. They found out through the blood work. Mm-hmm. And there is legitimate concern. I will also link a letter from a physician who's a pro-vax immunologist who's been writing letters and sounding the alarm on this subject. Screen before a vaccine at the bare minimum. But what I would ask everybody out there to consider, the fact that they're downplaying natural immunity to this degree, the fact that they're not even mentioning it, and that it's almost like we just forgot about, natural immunity, really, really bothers me. And it should bother everybody listening to this. And I will have more to say about this next time we talk, but
it's fucking criminal. It's making me tear up already because I had a really rough week with this, watching what's happening and what's happening to everybody and just the critical.
By the way, ABC, real quick, ABC has not gotten back to this mom.
No, they didn't. Right?
So are they going to do, the question is, are they going to do the follow-up about the father? And I have those videos I can link you guys.
Yeah.
Because they've just now turned away from her. They used her for her story on ABC. They figured it was an isolated incident. Now that the father, 42 years old, is in ICU.
Yeah. With tons of clots in his lungs. And
too numerous to count.
Before.
Preston Romney, and the son is Everest Romney. Cherie Romney is the mom. These are real people. Mm-hmm. And now she's left to talking in the darkness in the dark corners of the internet where they've put her. Mm-hmm. I would be surprised I'm willing to eat my words. If ABC decides to follow up with this, bravo to them. They need to, because if they don't, then they have no interest other than actually kind of using this like it's an isolated thing. Yeah. Any honest journalist would fight for that story.
They're complicit in a crime. This is the biggest crime against humanity.
kidsgethealthy.com. That's me. That's my world. And I've got to deal with this. And I also have the unique position of talking to clients and hearing on the front lines, on the ground floor here, what's going on. And I can tell you right now, There's things happening. We don't know yet. We don't know is a concerning thing.
Yeah.
I caution people to there are a lot of people out there that are experts in this field that probably can make those claims. I know this, I know that. I'm more from a position of a curious, concerned person with a fair amount of knowledge that is mostly upset that there were questions that should have been taken care of before any of this got out, because we shouldn't be finding out new things about the spike protein getting in the bloodstream and and all these studies coming out showing that the natural immunity is so robust from an infection. How is the CDC going to answer to this? That's the problem I have right now, is that all of this stuff is supposed to happen years. It's supposed to take all this time.
Yeah.
And when you find out about these clinical trials, we're going to pull it up on the screen next time. You're going to see what they did and the actual results. And you make your own decision, but that's informed consent. Informed consent is you read the documents, you read the research. Yeah. And if you have and you still go ahead, then bravo, you did it. Mm-hmm. If you haven't, you actually have no right to tell somebody that they're anti-science. Yeah. Because if that person did their homework and you didn't, you don't have a say because you're not informed. If you didn't read Pfizer, Moderna, J&J documents, looked at the trials, then you are not as informed as the person that did.
Right.
Period.
I had it all in me. It had to come out. But I've just been like this crazy mom this week going like, shame on you. That's all I just felt like saying to so many people. Like,
rosemary oil.
It's too important to not research more. Why are
It's rosemary oil.
I really appreciate both of you so very, very much. If only I had you in my back pocket when I was torturing myself decades ago. But I'm grateful for all the experiences I learned, and and here we are now trying to help people still. So I'm super grateful for both of you. I do think we should continue this on as a series. I know there are a lot of documents to support everything we're talking about that we're going to add and link up, and our next round. In doing so, we are going to, while we speak, share a lot of this facts.
It's important that people just see it and then make up your own mind when you see what's out there, and just come to the conclusions. But you need to see the actual data, and you should be looking at studies, and there's certain things we need to be looking at along the way. And it's literally by the day there's new things that are happening. I'm very, very, very busy with reading studies right now.
Thank you for doing that. And thank you for sharing with us. And thank you, Mr. Rick, for just getting into the heads and hearts of those Chicago folks, man. I really think everything's just your mind-body connection. I mean, we're in so much control. Everything's energy. We just got to make better choices. So hydrate. What's our bit?
Be aware of what you're eating, how you're eating. Start tweaking a little bit, and as much as you can, relieve the stress. And sometimes, it goes back to what Lawrence was saying. Sometimes you just got to take a deep breath.
Just breathe. Yep. Just breathe, everybody. Just breathe. On that note, a collective. Thank you, guys. Thank you, people in social media land. Aaron, I see all the love. Thank you, Aaron. And we look forward to seeing everybody again.
Thanks a bunch.
Make good choices this weekend, and don't feel guilty about them. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Enjoy.
Smell you later.
Bye.